And we're back. This is Elliot and Jose coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here on CCW TV. We are in the midst of a Brian Bendis triple pack. Yeah, triple play. It doesn't have to be good to be an oldie. Or is it? It doesn't have to be good to be a classic. Well, we just got through talking about the Cabal, the Siege, the Cabal by Brian Bendis. Gonna do another Bendis book, the Dark Avengers Annual by Brian Bendis and Chris Bacalo. This book got some publicity on the internet by the esteemed Rich Johnston on Bleeding Cool News, who did a clever little analysis of the number of actual pages, produced original artwork, and reprinted stuff and other back matter, and what that ended up costing people, because this was a $4.99 book. Mm-hmm. Especially when he even made the note that I think Joe Quesada had said that you wouldn't be using annuals to tell stories that you could have been telling within the regular books themselves, and yet this is a story that you could have told in the regular book itself. And the end of this book has a huge spoiler, huge spoiler regarding Captain America. And there are still like 3 issues of the miniseries due out too.
Well, yeah, because they added another one, but then you get that one shot too, so it's like 4.
Yeah, so you got 4 issues still to come out. Who will wield the shield? Okay, if Bendis did anything, thank you, Brian, because we know who will wield the shield. He reveals it at the end of this issue, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So, all things considered, this actually was a pretty good book. It was, I was reading this, and I was getting the same feeling from reading this as I did when I read that Avengers Free Comic Book Day one shot, where I kept waiting. I was going, wow, this is actually pretty good, and I kept waiting for a letdown. I kept waiting for kind of like, and yeah, it never really happened here. Yep. It's a solid story. In this Dark Avengers Annual, you have the focus put on Novar, Marvel Boy, the Grant Morrison creation, and Novar is struggling with his place on Earth. He doesn't get people, he doesn't get superheroes. On top of that, he was on the Dark Avengers, actually thinking he was doing good when he finds out that he was hoodwinked. So he's saying, screw this. I'm going to go off on my own, and he just starts doing what you call, he does a cane like kung fu. He walks the earth, and he encounters a young lady on the campus of NYU. Has an interesting conversation with her, kind of a fun conversation, and then the Sentry comes along, and usually when the Sentry shows up,
that's when things turn bad.
That's when things turn bad, and not only in regards to the story, but like you go, fuck, man, that's stupid. But this actually kind of worked.
Right.
It was kind of fun, and seeing Novar and the Sentry go head to head gives you an idea of the power level that Novar is on, that Marvel Boy is on, and this issue kind of sets up Marvel Boy to be really one of the top guns in the Marvel U. Really one of the top powers. Because not only can he go toe-to-toe with the Sentry, but by the end of this issue, his powers are actually augmented. Yeah. And he's given, I think he goes, when you think about it, he goes from being Marvel Boy to Captain Marvel.
Pretty much he's the new Captain Marvel.
Although I'm not crazy about this costume design.
I don't like
Yeah,
it's kind of goofy, but who knows? It looks all right when Chris Bacalo draws it. I don't know how it's going to look when someone else draws it.
You know what the problem with it is? I'll tell you right now what my problem with it is. It's black and white. Should have been green and white, so it would look a little more like a Kree outfit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But surprisingly, yes, Chris Bacalo's artwork really does a great job.
Yeah, that helped me get through this book I mean, the story was actually pretty decent, but the artwork, this is some of the best work that he's done in a long time, I think.
And for once, the conversations in this actually helped for the story,
see,
you know?
I have a hard time believing that Bendis wrote this. But it was just like that one shot where the conversations were actually normal conversations, and they weren't trying to be hip or cool. And
I think he wrote this a while back. I think it's like an old script, and he pulled it up, and he went, hey, that's pretty good. And then he, bam.
Because for all you people out there who think they were Brian Michael Bendis haters, I, for the most part, am. But I used to like him. And it's books like this that make me even more frustrated with other books. Because he can do good stuff.
Yes, he can do very good stuff. Yes.
You know, you get that boring-ass shit like the Cabal, and just terrible, terrible dialogues and dialogue and stories in the New Avengers, Dark Avengers. And then you read this, and you're like, why can't he just do this all the time?
You know what I
mean,
think?
Because it's actually Marvel Boy being a hero. It's a story about a hero.
Yes.
And that's not what he does anymore. It's always about the villains. It's just refreshing to see a hero being a hero.
But not only that, it's just, again, Bendis really, I think it's getting into the characters, though. There's a whole fight between Marvel Boy and the Sentry, and the Sentry's going, okay, why are you doing this? Why are you taking out? And Novar's going, look, man, Osborn sold me a bill of goods, and he goes, and I'm not so sure about you either. He goes, are you crazy or are you a villain? and he goes, I'm neither. He goes, maybe you're both. It was really.
But again, it's, the Sentry, like the dialogue coming. This is like, to me, this is almost written like a different Sentry. On top of that,
yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it was, for once, it did make the characters, their motivations and why they're doing what they're doing just made more sense to me. It just made more sense. So again, with this, the only issue I can really take with this book is the fact that it was a $4.99 book.
Yeah.
And if any book is screaming, make me $3.99, it's this one right here. Because this was a book that I really think more people should have been reading. You know, if you want to get into the character of Marvel Boy, and but again, some interesting stuff. I think the $4.99 titles, the price tag's going to scare off some folks.
Yeah. I still don't think it's worth $4.99. And this artwork is beautiful and the story is pretty decent, but there's no way this is worth $4.99.
No, $3.90. It's a solid $3.99 book.
But I don't know. To draw the cord, like I saw this panel, I was like, is he doing like a Doctor Who thing now?
Yeah,
it's kind of what
like the chick has a companion and Doctor Who. Well, it's not unlike Bendis to just start pulling all the conventions from everyone else and use them, because he's just doing a hell of a lot of that. And then you flip to the last page, and and
Bucky and Steve Rogers are standing there. They were watching the whole battle.
Yeah,
and Bucky is still Captain America, and Steve Rogers is looking like
an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, which is kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's going. We're calling it right here. Steve Rogers, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah,
but yeah. And then you get the same 6-page preview of the Siege that you got
all over the fucking place. Yeah.
Yeah. It's whatever, man. $5, ridiculous.
Which is too bad, because again, this was a solid book, and I would have considered buying it if it was a $3.99 book, not for $5.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna wrap up with our Brian Bendis triple play, with a look at the book that actually made me a Brian Bendis fan. If you've been watching this show, you'll know what it is. We hope to see you in the next segment.